can settle down, I think we should get started, because I know some people have to leave early for child pickup. So maybe if Ben could come up and be here with me for a few minutes. So my name is Samir Khullar, I'm the chair of computer science. And first of all, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. We are here gathered today to celebrate the accomplishments and contributions of our valued colleague, Ben Shneiderman. Ben has been at UMD for 4 decades. Today he is a distinguished university professor, a member of the National Academy of Sciences, founder of the world-renowned HCIL Lab, fellow of many societies including IEEE and ACM, winner of numerous awards, Best Paper Awards, Research Awards, and most recently an addition to the Inventors Hall of Fame. He is also Maryland's most cited author, wrote several books, and recently is on a world tour lecture series on his latest book, The ABCs of Research. Now, academics are most proud of their accomplishments and the legacy they leave behind, which is their academic substrate. Ben has a very, very impressive one, graduating scores of PhDs, many of whom joined us today. Many are leading professors, researchers working at labs and in industry. And I know Ben is truly proud of what they have accomplished for his efforts for many decades, and he recently received the university's Graduate Mentor of the Award. I'm also delighted that many of them were at lunch today and also are here this evening. This is exactly what academia is about. It's about mentoring, inspiring, and teaching the next generation. And all of us here, both in UMIACS and CS, are fully invested to the success of our students. In this next new chapter of his life, I'm sure Ben will not really retire. He's a person with energy and ideas, and he's untiring. I think he would simply like to focus his efforts on continuing to realize his vision for computing to be pervasive across this campus with lots of partnerships. I look forward to hearing more inspiring remarks from Ben later. By his request, he's the last speaker today.
That's the last word.
And I also hope that he'll follow Bill Pugh's footsteps and try to teach a 200-person class in the department this fall. I wanted to finally close by thanking all of you for being here to share this moment with us. This is really a celebration of many, many of our faculty who spent 3 to 4 decades building up the department, and I really want to have a round of applause for all the senior faculty in CS and UMIACS. Both via their own research and by educating students, they've had a major impact in the world of computing, and especially by graduating so many students who launched companies that have made it really big. Computing in society is taking an increasingly important role. And I know many people on campus complain that computer scientists are mavericks, and as chair I could not agree more. But it is exactly that kind of disruptive thinking that drew a certain kind of individual to the field to begin with. Finally, I know we were overbooked today. I was told the space holds 90 and about 120 people are repeat. But don't worry, this is not United Airlines. You're all very welcome. Hang around here this evening, and the party will start after the speeches. I also wanted to in particular thank our hardworking staff who's put this event together, especially Miriam Friedman, who's carried the bulk of the work. So, applause for Miriam. Assisting her, of course, has been all of the staff, but I especially want to mention Stephanie Peters, Randy Adams, and Todd Holden. Todd put together a wonderful website, which all of you can look at. It's really remarkable, and really it's a way to remember Ben and all of the work that he's done even after he retires and is still around. So without further ado, I wanted to call on our Provost, Marianne Rankin, to say a few words. Thank you, Marianne, for being here.
Well, thank you, Samir. I was contemplating what I might say here today, all weekend, actually, because, you know, a lot of times with retirement events like this, you tell stories, you know, reveal idiosyncrasies, to find you know, things to prod at, to roast somebody. And I thought and thought and thought, and I couldn't think of anything like that about him. He seems like the absolutely perfect person. So now I don't know him as well as Jenny does, so probably she could say something.
He's pretty perfect.
Yeah, right. That's right. I had heard of Ben while I was staying at Texas. Obviously, we had a computer science program in my college, and we were building a human-computer interaction group, and so I'd heard of Ben, and so I knew of his excellence in the discipline. But I had no idea until I came here what a Renaissance man he is. All kinds of other endeavors. In fact, I have some art hanging in my office, which many of you have seen, although I don't know that Ben has ever seen it hanging there, that he gave me, which was some computer art that depicted data, that visualized in
Tree maps
colors.
of the-
Right, exactly.
Bloomberg data.
Yes, Bloomberg data, and it goes really well where I put it. It's really, you never know that it's a database. But anyway, you would, because there's a little piece on the picture. But anyway, I think we've been so fortunate to have been as a leader here at the University of Maryland for all these years, and have now become, I think, renowned for human-computer interactions research. Because of his leadership. So I just want to say thank you so much, Ben, for all you've given us, and not just given us, but given science and technology and the community at large in so many different ways. I'm very grateful to have been a little bit of a part of your life here. I hope your retirement is going to be very fulfilling, active, and also liberating. So I'll just end by saying congratulations and thank you again for all you've given us. It's been extraordinary.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Our next speaker is our Dean of the College of Computer, Mathematical and Natural Sciences, Dr. JAYANTH BANAVAR.
Good evening, everybody. Hearty congratulations, Ben. I joined the University of Maryland about 5.5 years ago, and one of the first people I met was Ben Shneiderman. I was very impressed with what a tremendous scholar he was. I was very impressed with what a nice human being he was. And it was only later that I discovered that he was married to an even nicer human being. Ben is a true visionary, and I was thinking about what Ben is like, and I came up with this quote from Alan Turing, who said, supposedly, "We can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done." Now, the problem with Ben is he can actually see a long distance ahead, and he also sees many, many things that can be done to make our institution better, to make our college better, to make our department better, and all this leads to him becoming a bit of a pain occasionally. So I've had repeated requests from him on how to improve the college, on how to improve matters, all extremely good suggestions. And I have made a record of all of these. And if I haven't really implemented them, it's not for lack of trying, but truly speaking, Ben, you are a classy gentleman, you are a fantastic scholar, and you really are a hero to me. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jayanth, for those wonderful remarks. Our next speaker is Dean Darrell Hines of Engineering.
So I am the Dean of the sister college, the CMNS, in Computer Science. And I first came in contact with Ben when actually Dan Moat, former President Dan Moat, emailed me and said, "You have 3 inductees to the National Academy of Engineering." And I said, "Well, who are they?" And he says, "These 2 you know, but this other one you probably don't know." And that was Ben. And so I said, well, it's fantastic. You know, I was in my year 2. I thought all of them would go this way. We'd have National Academy of Engineering members like every year, like 3 every year. We haven't had one since that year. Right? It's been difficult to get into the Academy. But Ben was one of the members who got into the Academy, and I didn't know Ben. I emailed Ben and I said, hey Ben, congratulations, Darryl Pines. As is tradition in the University of Maryland, Clark School of Engineering, we'd like to honor you with this recognition with the Glenn O. Martin Professorship. And Ben was gracious enough and said, yeah, I'll take that. How much money does it come? I said, Ben, it's not about the money, it's about the prestige. We don't give out the Glenn O. Martin name to anybody. You give it out only to the people who've gotten to the Academy. It's like, well, how much money does it cost? And I can echo Giant's comments about, you know, yes, he's a classy guy, but yeah, he gives you all kinds of advice. So I didn't know Ben, and Ben said, hey, I got some advice for you. I'm like, okay. And he starts emailing. And I said, this is great, thanks Ben. So first he introduced me to the field of human computer interaction. I don't know if you remember any of this. You probably don't remember this. But I said, great. He said, you got to come to the workshop. We have it every summer, blah, blah, every year. It's been going on for, at that time, I think, 19, 20 years or something like that. So I came down and looked at the seminar. It was wonderful. Ben, it was a wonderful experience. Thank you for making me aware of it. But later, now fast forward 5 years, 6 years later, Ben, because we've had really good interaction, sends me an email and says, hey, you know, I'm working on the book, The ABCs of Research. And so he sends me an early monograph of it. And I was like, wow, impressed. You know, I didn't know this part of him. And I read it and I'm like, wow, Ben, this is unbelievable. I mean, you've got to go market this. He said, okay, don't tell anybody. I just wanted to see if I was on par. He wanted to get opinions from people. And I said, okay, you're so good, you have to come now to the Clark School retreat. Do you remember this? So I made him come to our retreat and said, you got to give a talk about this. We're going to have a book signing. And so we bought all of his books for every staff and faculty member for the retreat. I think it was like over 100. We still have copies of them. We only had 70 people come to the retreat, but we had everybody take, and they loved the book. But you know, Ben is, as Giant mentioned, as a visionary, unbelievable. And his focus on interdisciplinary research is paramount for our university, for the 2 colleges, for the university in general. And I think he just set the bar so high. I mean, you know, I know some of you know this, but I have to say this. I have to point out just some of these incredible statistics. He has over 75,000 citations. His H factor is 110. For all those who are under 110, this is who you aspire to be. Okay? I mean, you set the bar high for all of us, and we're deeply proud and honored to know you. But you also gave out practical knowledge at that retreat. So I just want to say a few of these things that Ben said is some of the secret sauce to his success. He said it's okay to self-promote. Remember this? He said it's okay to self-promote. So he said create your own wiki page. Why not? You'll get more attention. You'll get your articles cited. Let your students send the papers to your peer faculty out there. He said they never say no to students. They say no to you, but they never say no to students. And these are really hallmark words, right? And so our people started doing this. And our citations are going up because of it. I mean, there's simple things that anyone can do. Create a wiki site. If you do a blog, create a blog. But be intelligent with your blog. But he was basically saying, we have to do a better job of marketing ourselves. So Ben, I thank you for your collaborativeness. I thank you for your leadership and your high scholarship. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate that you're leaving, but I know you do great things going forward. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Darryl, for reminding us of all the advice that Ben has given all of us. In fact, we had this one credit class called Introduction to Research or something like that, and Ben said, call it Introduction to Great Research. When he took it over. Our next speaker is Dean of the High School, Keith Marzullo. So many of you might not recognize Keith. Keith is, I guess, one of the newest deans around here. He's been here for about 8 months now.
8 months, that's right. Though I used to be at NSF, and so I know a lot of people recognize me from that, because for some reason you guys like NSF. Anyway, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks, congratulations. This is wonderful. I was trying to figure out what to say about Ben, and so I went, being from the high school, I went to the source of all information, Wikipedia. And certainly there was a lot of good information there. BS in Math and Physics from CCNY, MS PhD from Stony Brook. Indiana University, and then to Maryland, where he was in the Information Systems Management, then tenure, then CS in '83, and that was the year you started CIL. So if you look at this, you won't see anywhere in that Wikipedia page in the iSchool, which is odd because we consider, in fact, we know that Ben is one of ours. He is definitely a core member of the iSchool. He's been an affiliate for about a decade, but more importantly, the kind of things he's interested in, the multidisciplinary, design-oriented sensibilities, they exemplify iSchools and what we do. If you look at this latest book, The New ABCs of Research, I'm going to quote very briefly from it. It says, "I believe that we are past the point when students and young researchers have to make unnecessary choices that narrow their identities, limit their thinking, and undermine collaboration. Just as balanced diets are healthier, doesn't everyone benefit from 2 or 3 ways of seeing the world? Learning about a few disciplines seems a constructive, balanced strategy compared to excessive specialization of unlimited diversity." That really resonates with iSchool faculty. We, in the iSchool, have invented and reinvented ourselves many times as we pull different disciplines together, and this is the way we live. Indeed, its creation, the HCIL, is a huge part of our identity. Over 40% of the lab members are from the iSchool. That's more than twice the next largest contributing unit. And it's just another way of saying that what we do in HCIL really fits in very well with what goes on in ABCs of Research and in the iSchool, as well as CS, journalism, education, engineering, mechanical engineering, all the different disciplines that are represented in HCIL. Indeed, my largest headache this year in recruiting was trying to figure out how we were going to get 4 new faculty members into the second floor of Hornbeck in HCIL. So if any of you have a TARDIS, I really could use one right now. So Ben, you've done much for the university and for computer science, and we're here thanking you for that. But I would like to say now, thank you for all of your vision, your effort in the iSchool. You'll always be one of us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Keith. Our next speaker is in a bit of a rush to get to the airport, so I want to invite MIHAI, the Interim Director of UMIACS, to say a few words.
Thank you all for, those of you who don't know me, I work in computational biology, and I want to relate what happened to me when I interviewed here. Actually, Ben has really made me sweat that day. Because I was quite proud for having had a day of interviews, and everybody was very nice and kind, asked me what I want to do, and I came to Ben and I told him what I want to do, and he said, well, you have all these nice papers and so on. I was very proud of my papers in Nature and Science, and said, well, what does this have to do with computer science? And I was very surprised because I knew Ben is an interdisciplinary scientist, and I was like, well, what do you mean? Nobody in computer science challenged me on the fact that my work was primarily biology, but Ben did. And I tried for a while to understand why he did so. And I realized what he essentially was trying to ask me is, interdisciplinary science essentially means contributing to both fields, and then that's why I realized I have to do to be successful as a whole, and I took that to heart, and I think I have been somewhat successful. AMITABH let me take a seat for a while, so that's great. And that's what I've been trying to instill into my students as well. It's not sufficient to be a great computational biologist because you help biologists and you use computational tools, but you also want to give back to computer science. You want to use both fields to influence each other, and that's essentially what Ben's new book on the ABCs of Research is trying to say. So I want to thank Ben for challenging me from day one. From day 0, before I actually had an appointment in the science department, you have challenged me to improve myself, and you have challenged everybody to improve themselves, and to create real interdisciplinary research here. And I thank you for that, and I thank you for growing me. I thank you for all the contribution I've made to the university and to all our colleagues. Thank you, and good luck in your retirement.
Our next speaker is Interim Vice President of Research, Professor AMITABH VARSHNEY.
Thanks, Samir. Like some of the speakers have said before, when I was the director of UMIACS, I had Ben come up to me and say, there is this really nice idea I have of creating pictures from my tree maps. Can UMIACS support this? It'll be just a few $100s. Fine. Yeah, sounds good. Ben, thanks for doing this. So then, a few weeks later, Ben comes back and says, you know, these pictures are really taking off. Can you spend another $1,000 or so to have them framed? It'll be really nice. I said, yeah, sure, yeah, Ben, yeah. And you know, that $1,500 is the best $1,500 UMIACS has ever spent. So after I become the interim VP, I go to this new office, and there is Ben's photo, of this picture of art. Every algorithm has art in it. Then I go to Marianne's office, there I see that. Then I go to President Lowe's office, there's another one of these. It's the best publicity anybody has ever had for UMIACS. So thank you, Ben. But in general, Ben, one of the other things I should say is, Ben and I go to the same conference every year. This is the annual IEEE Visualization Conference. And so I know a little bit more about Ben's research than some of the others. So Ben started his research with this high precision touch interfaces and hyperlinks, things you click on, a point. Then he went to these query sliders, things on a line, and that was incorporated with Spotfire with hundreds of employees, and then he went to space filling rectangles, 2D, right? You see the pattern, it's going into higher and higher dimensions. And then he worked on these visualizations of networks in the Node Excel. And then the latest is his work on lifelines, lifelines 2, event flow. And these are all higher dimensional visualizations of electronic health records, sports analytics, business workflows. And he was so instrumental in the work we did with empowering the state initiative with the School of Pharmacy in Baltimore. But one of the things that he keeps telling us is visualization is not about pictures. It's about insights. And the biggest insight I've had from Ben is this idea that research for the sake of research is not it. Unless your research has an impact, unless it's communicated, it will never be what it can be. So the Division of Research, working very closely with Ben in the last few years, has started this new Research Communicator Impact Award to recognize faculty who have gone out of their way to proactively promote their own research. One can't emphasize this enough in this current times, where even the basic value of science is in question these days. So in some ways, it's not just communicating our research, but also telling the broader society, the decision makers, and everyday citizens, what is the value of the research that we are doing. And Ben has been doing this with us here at Maryland for the last 41 years, and it has had a huge impact on all of us. The visibility of Maryland has been much higher, thanks to Ben, and it's about not just creating these venues for telling people about it, but also empowering the users at the end. So for all of this, for all of these brilliant insights, for your tremendous collegiality, for your very nice friendship and tremendous positivity, thank you, Ben, for spending so much time with us.
Thanks so much, AMITABH. Our next speaker is Professor REZA, GHODSSI, Director of ISR.
Well, in my opinion, there are few faces that they represent an institution like University of Maryland. And Ben, you're one of those people. And for many reasons that our colleagues just listed. So I have many stories to share, but I'm not going to do that because people are ready to go. You know, I had the privilege of meeting Ben at our colleague's house, Gary Rubloff, when I came to Maryland, and I was just blown away initially of how knowledgeable you are, but how diverse you are, how versatile you are, and you are really the Renaissance man that everyone referring to you to. And I have just a write-up here that I think is probably different from what everyone else said, but I want to read through it for those of you who don't know. Ben truly also believes in archiving. Surprising for a person who has made his mark in data visualization. Several years ago, he donated his Shneiderman's papers to the special collections of the University of Maryland libraries. These papers covered the emergence of the discipline of human-computer interaction. For years, I have noticed the wide range of photos Ben has for every occasion, more than any other colleague that I know. And so I was not surprised to learn that of the photography history in his family, when I visited their house once a while back, if you remember. And there are more than 12,000 photos in the library archives that you have. You are really, truly an ambassador of this university, a born showman. I remember your Da Vinci lecture when you put on that costume and promoted your Leonardo's laptop book, and it was so well received. I think it's been a privilege to have you as a colleague. Even though you're not full-time in ISR, you are an entity, a person that everyone would refer to. And I often take advantage of all the great advice that I receive from you personally. So thank you. This is just the beginning.
Thank you so much, Reza. Next speaker is Ben's long-time collaborator, Ben. Ben is currently Associate Provost for Learning Initiatives and has been probably, outside of Cancer and Prasad, probably your closest collaborator.
Thanks. So, Ben, I haven't even said hello yet today, so hello. So, I want to try and capture 3 characteristics of my experience working with Ben. The first is in his continuous long-term support of me and mentored me as I came here as a very junior professor. He helped to recruit and bring Allison and me to University of Maryland. If you don't know Allison, she's my wife, Allison Druin, and a professor in the high school still. In addition to supporting us generally, you also really helped to develop our leadership skills in multiple ways. And the way that I want to represent that the most clearly was one day, and let's see, we came here in January '98, so it was about 2 years later, it was probably 2000. He saw us in the hallway, he said, Ben, I want to talk to you. Wait, Allison, I think I need to talk to you too. And he pulled us both into my office, and he said, I think I better close the door. And we said, uh-oh, something's coming up. And he said, I know you didn't ever think this would happen, but it is time for me to step down as being director of HCIL, and I would like one of you to become the next director of HCIL, but I want to respect the fact that you're married, which is why I had to lead with that. And that I respect you both, and I'm going to leave it to you to decide who should be.
And you're still married.
We are still married, so we said we'll have to think about that. As it turned out, we decided that I would start being director. Allison, I did that for 5 or 6 years. Then Allison was the next director, and she did it for another similar time frame. So, so that was a very nice way of bringing us aboard and respecting us. So that was number 1. The second thing is how he supported me as a scholar. So I'm a systems builder. I'm a hacker. I like to build creative, fun things that I thought are inspiring and influential. And kind of like the way that MIHAI said, Ben asked him some challenging questions about his work. Ben said, okay, well that's very nice, but how do you know it's any good? And that was really the refrain of the question. I said, I know it's good because everyone says it's good, and it's cool, and people are downloading it, and they're using it, and it's changing the way people are doing their work. And he said, okay, well that's nice, but how do you represent that? How do you measure it? And I said, well, I got these nice accolades. He said, well, I don't know how to count that. So he's really strongly encouraged me to think about the metrics of success. And that conversation, which is represented that way, was really 15 years worth of conversation about trying to understand how you know what you do has real value. And there's lots of different kinds of value, and we had a lot of conversations about what value means, from pure scholarly scientific value to use value to trying to measure the impact of other people's using your tool value. So in all the different ways that you encouraged me to think deeply about value what I was doing, I thank you. And then the third thing is to how Ben has been a tireless advocate for, I was going to say the field of HCI, but I want to broaden that a little bit to say humanity. Because I think what he has come to, the way I've come to understand the value of HCI, it's really what brought me into the field, is because this is all about, we're still like computers. I'm still a geek, right? I'm still a geek at least 50%. But the reason I picked this field is because HCI is all about computers as a means to an end. There's no, in my view, that what distinguishes HCI from computing or many other things is what you do with the technology that you developed. And that advocacy, that way of thinking about questioning why it is that we're doing, what is the broader impact of society, many of you have heard these conversations in different ways. I'll just remind you of two of them. I'm sure that you'll remember. The first is the historical AI debates, partly on our campus, partly with this historic debate with Patty Mays from MIT, where there was really substantive questions, decades ago, to be honest, that we are still having today. It used to be, why do we want to create computers that are going to replace human activity? Now it's replacing jobs, but the conversation hasn't changed that much. But the question is key, which is how do we, computers, yes, to some extent there are market forces that are going to do what they're going to do, but we have to take responsibility for building the world that we want to live in. And so that is a real value. Similar with voice recognition and any other kind of automation or use of computing in our lives. Ben regularly questioned, why is it that we're building things the way that we are building them? And if we don't like them, then let's make an active choice about it. So for that, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next speaker is Ben's indeed true longest collaborator, Catherine Prasad, for over 3 decades.
Thank you. All right, so how many of you have had research collaborators for 10 years? Oh, you had 20 years? 30 years? You see, it's not that common. So I feel very fortunate to have had excellent, fantastic colleagues and research partners for 30 years. I have to count yesterday. I went back to measuring. I found 105 co-authored publications, so almost half. Which is, I'm impressed myself. So, working with a giant in the field and a super productive person is inspiring, but it's also a challenge. But I'm very lucky because Ben has always been pushing me beyond my limits. Like, of course you could do this keynote, like many years ago, when I was really afraid, but also providing support to ensure success. Very important. Giving credit always to everybody, not just me, but every member of the team, the student there could, past student, could reconfirm that today. And also making sure I had an independent career. So I feel very fortunate to have such a long-term collaboration. Collaborators need complementary skills. So Ben is such an incredible, elegant speaker for those journalists and those CEOs. Well, I need my notes and I love to interview our users. And Ben is making sure the students graduate, while I'll make sure our users and our sponsors like and think what we do is useful. Ben has hundreds of ideas, thousands of ideas, so I do my best to weed out a few and elaborate on the best ones, and I could go on, but and also very important, we disagree a lot, and sometimes it gets pretty heated. Again, some people still could argue with that, but it always ends in a very constructive, friendly way, and that's really not that easy. Ironically, my best memories are those times where it feels like everything is going wrong, there is too much work, things are not happy, but if you could find Ben, you could sit in the office and within an hour we have a plan, we dropped a few things that were less important, make the plan and leave refreshed and invigorated, and that is really invaluable. So as a colleague, that's what everybody wish to have. Finally, I would say research seems to suggest that optimism makes you live longer. So my hypothesis is that if you work with somebody who is incredibly productive and enthusiastic, it would make you feel and work better and probably longer. All right, so I could go on, but we're here to celebrate. So thank you, Ben, for our 30 years of collaboration.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Really, that was from the coal minds, the co-workers of Ben. Our next speaker is Jenny PREECE, Ben's wife, and also ex-dean of the high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. I'm absolutely delighted to be here to congratulate you, Ben, and to be part of this party. It's very hard to follow all these comments, but I am a colleague of Ben's as well as his wife, so I have two perspectives. And one quick comment, Ben is absolutely a giant in our field. Many people have said the equivalent of that. He is a giant. He started almost, not single-handedly, but was one of the early starters of the human-computer interaction discipline. And you've also heard a lot about what he did for starting HDIL at the University of Maryland. But what I want to do is talk a little bit differently, because many colleagues have talked about all kinds of stories, and as Ben's wife, I have maybe a little bit of a different perspective. So I have three questions that people regularly come to ask me about Ben. First one, I bet some of you can probably guess. It goes like this. People look a bit wide-eyed at me and they say, Ben, we've heard that Ben's retiring. Is Ben really retiring?
Yeah.
Surely he's not really retiring, because Ben he's well known for his incredible energy. And I can tell you that Ben keeps a notebook by the side of the bed, and sometimes when we get up in the morning, I'm like groggy. I'm English, I need my tea. And there's Ben wanting to talk about his most recent idea of solving a problem. Ben has a huge reputation. He's phenomenally generous. And I don't know what Ben's going to do next. Maybe Ben will tell you a bit more of that, but I'm pretty sure he will continue thinking about technology, and particularly thinking about the humanistic influence that technology has on society. He enjoys going down to DC, maybe not quite so much now as he used to, but I'm sure he's going to be very active in doing those kinds of things. And as others have alluded, Ben is a very fun guy. He has a lot of things that he loves to do. He loves to bike, he loves to hike, and he's absolutely passionate about skiing. And I think, as Reza mentioned, Ben is also a photographer, has photography in his family. And actually, Ben has about 40,000 pictures of our family on his laptop. He has about another 40,000 professional pictures. And one of his exciting things is when he's invited by some magazine or other to supply one of those pictures to go with an article that's being written. He did that recently. One of his pictures was used in Vanity Fair. Remind me who it was of, I forgot.
Gene Samet.
Of Gene Samet. Ben's glowing with pride about this. So I don't think there's going to be any problems of a bored Ben. I think Ben is going to have plenty of things to do. Next question that people ask me also fairly often is, have you been into Ben's office recently? This is people that know that we live in a fairly small apartment. Have you seen how much stuff he's got in there? Have you seen all the plaques on the wall? Ben has about 35 or so plaques on the wall. I'm very thankful to Samir, because Samir has said Ben can keep his office for another year. So we have a bit of time to sort this one out. So that's great. Ben is a big hoarder, and he has a lot of family heritage. He has a wonderful family. You're going to meet his eldest daughter, Sarah, in just a minute. Ben has two amazing daughters, Sarah and Anna, and a very big Shneiderman clan. That's one of the things that for a while, took me a little while to get used to. Anyway, third question that I was going to mention is that some people know that Ben and I have, we've both written textbooks in the human-computer interaction area. And Ben, of course, did his way before mine and was extremely generous, and I interviewed him for our book. But Ben is always curious, you know, he's quite competitive, even with me. So on one occasion, he was at a conference, and he saw this big book display, and he went along, and he claimed nobody knew who he was. I don't know if that's true. And he said to the person there, he said, you've got these two books. You've got this book and this PREECE book. How do they compete? Which one sells the most? How do they do? And the person there said, well, they're pretty complementary to each other. And actually, they go very well together. So that was one of Ben's favorite stories. So you are huge in our field. You are amazing. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. And I'm going to get teary in a minute. But I'm looking forward to us going very well together for many years to come.
Thank you so much, Jenny. We are indeed fortunate that one of Ben's daughters was able to be with us today. She's Sarah Shneiderman, and she herself is a professor at University of British Columbia. Thanks for coming all the way from Vancouver, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. And I'm not a computer scientist or even an engineer. I'm an anthropologist, so I especially thank you for having me speak at this occasion. But I do share one thing with everybody else who's spoken, which is that I have had a lifetime of receiving advice from them. So I really know how that feels and empathize with you all, but also, of course, have been very much shaped by that, which is what I want to speak about a little bit. So I'm honored to be here today to celebrate all of my father's achievements. And I just arrived here yesterday from Vancouver, but via Ithaca, New York, where I was back at Cornell, where I did my PhD, to join in a retirement celebration, actually a conference in honor of my own PhD advisors who were also retiring. So it's been really interesting to kind of change hats from being a student, and it was really great to hear all of my father's students speak earlier today, now to being in the role of daughter that I'm very proud to play here. So daughter one, to be precise, as my dad often likes to introduce me. And I just also want to say hello and share some also thoughts from daughter two, my sister Anna, who couldn't be here with us today. She lives in Oakland, California, but sends her love, good wishes, and thanks to all of you here who've done the work to make today's events possible, and of course, congratulations to Dad. So some of my earliest memories involve computers. Atari, Commodore 64, Apple II. And in fact, we discovered, I think, that Apple II in my father's office earlier today, amongst all of the other things that Jenny was mentioning. I think it's what Dad always used to call creative clutter, which is a phrase I have also adopted to explain to my own husband what's going on in my office. I think it looks very much like my dad's. So some of the perks of being a computer scientist child in the late 70s and early 80s were having rather unusual access to adventure games and actually early online chat rooms, which definitely increased my social capital on the playground. At that point, access to the internet and the prospect of building online communities seemed completely normal to me. And I only realized much later in hindsight that my father's ways of thinking were well ahead of the curve. And that, in a sense, my early exposure to all of these ideas and, in fact, ways of being shaped my own trajectory as a thinker, a writer, and now an academic. So, being the guinea pig for a book that you may or may not know about called Let's Learn Basic was actually the center point of these experiences as a child. Now, it's a book that my dad wrote as I understand better now, in order to respond to a request from my third grade teacher for some help in teaching children how to write BASIC. But I somewhat resented having to sit in front of the computer after coming home from school in the beautiful afternoons to test the exercises that Dad was trialing for the book. But ultimately I loved the results and felt really proud of them. And the unicorn is still my favorite. This appears in the book, but it's easier to see here. This was the kind of draft version that was shared with the DC public schools when I was in third grade. And so I think Dad said, well, what do you want to make? Because I wasn't so thrilled about some of the other ideas. And I said, I want a unicorn, because that's what I was so excited about at the time. So we got a unicorn through basic programming, and that's an image which I think has really stayed with me throughout life. Being able to do all this at a young age also gave me a sense of confidence, I see now, in myself as a knowledge producer. And I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, as I find myself sometimes struggling in what I think is an increasingly challenging academic climate to achieve the same sense of certainty that I had when I was 8 years old. I made this thing, here it is. But what I want to emphasize today is that for my dad, it was the interpersonal process and the social impact of that mattered as much as the measurable output itself, although we've heard quite a lot about how he loves measuring outputs, and that's something I'm familiar with too. So I think what really mattered is that we worked together on the project and could share our excitement at the results. Ultimately, I think this was my first ever scholarly collaboration and publication at the age of 8, and of course it's set the stage for many wonderful experiences. So I'm very grateful to you, Dad, for modeling the values of intellectual inquiry, rigorous empirical research, and collaborative engagement that embodies a commitment to making positive change in the world. And I think that's what the unicorn is really all about. So later I began to develop my own interest in anthropology, and these principles that I first learned from you remain clear guideposts in my own journey. Whether you like it or not, the opportunities that you created for our family to travel internationally when we were children, especially in Asia, exposed me to the richness of global cultural difference, and that's much of what compelled me to become an anthropologist. And I say whether you like it or not, because I think you might have wished that I stayed closer to home, rather than living in Nepal and India, as I have for many years, and I continue to do my research there. But it's your spirit of curiosity and deep desire to understand how people work and how to make their lives better that has motivated much of my own work. In our spirited debates over things like how to define impact in our very different research contexts, I've learned how to speak to broader audiences and communicate the value of the place-based social research that I do to academic audiences who might not immediately recognize the value of anthropological research in the developing world. So the broader point that I want to share with all of you here, beyond thanking Father for all you've given to me, is that your ways of thinking are relevant far beyond computer science in unquantifiable ways that connect you to much larger communities of scholarship and practice. And I, like others have said already, think that that's really what your most recent book is about, and it's really exciting to see. So the last thing I want to say is about how your model of mentorship and creative cross-disciplinary academic citizenship has provided inspiration for my own day-to-day life in the university now. As a child, I remember grad students coming over in the evenings to meet with you, and I was supposed to go to bed, but I often stayed awake wondering what you might be discussing with them. It's only much later that I realized that actually you were a teacher. That's not, I think, often how our kids see us, which I realize now as an academic with children, right? That they see us sitting in front of our computers and don't necessarily see us in the classroom. But when I saw that students were coming to your house and I could see the close relationships that you built with them, I understood that you were concerned not only with transferring knowledge, but building compassionate and community-oriented people. So those are the values that I try to reproduce in my own work as a mentor now, and I often think of you for inspiration. So finally, just to wrap up, I'd like to say that as an anthropologist, I firmly believe that rituals really work. And that's not only for the person that they are supposed to be about, but actually for all of the participants. So I offer my thanks to all of you for organizing today's events and for being here as we all transition together to the next phase of life alongside my dad. Thanks a lot.
Thank Thank you so much, Sarah. You provided us with a very unique perspective. Now, evidence of how Ben truly, truly cares about all of us. He cares that we do better research. As you heard, he cares that we be better communicators. He also cares about our waistlines. Ben insisted that the food had to be extremely healthy, otherwise he'd be deeply, deeply upset. And he was threatening to walk all of the students over from campus to the golf course and make them march back to work off the salad that they're going to get to eat. And instead of dessert, I present you Ben Shneiderman.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I think this is great. I thought it'd be all tearful, but I'm just loving this. I think we ought to do this every year, you know? Or maybe do one of yours for somebody else every year. But this was truly special. I have reflected on my years here, and Todd Holden put up a website called, under the computer science department, Ben's Retirement, which has my 4-page commentary on my colleagues here that tell the story of how they were inspirations to me. So I won't repeat that, but take a look at that. I also offered on there the 3-page letter my students wrote, one of my most cherished documents, where 10 of my students wrote a letter describing how I was helpful in mentoring them. And today's lunch was really wonderful. 11 of my students have traveled here and had a wonderful 2-hour session where they were talking about their lives and their work and how Maryland influenced them. It was very special, and John Guerra Gomez came from Bogota, Colombia, others from California. It really meant a lot to me to see all of you there. And then also, I wish you all the opportunity to be surrounded by the wonderful, strong women in my life. My daughter, my wife Jenny, and Catherine. They've been really central to making my life strong and wonderful, filled with great successes and just warm times. So to me, it's very satisfying to be here. I'm grateful that so many of you came over to spend the time and appreciate the comments from so many people. It means a lot to me. I will remember it well. I'll be around still. The question, I guess, is what are you going to do now? Yeah, I resisted retirement for a while, but now I've embraced the idea. And I'll be around. Samir kindly offered to allow me to keep my office as long as we're in the old building there. And I'll be in there. And Jenny's continuing to work on her NSF projects on citizen science, and I think that work is really important. So I'm happy to see that happen. She will follow me into retirement a year from now, and then we'll be freer to do more things. I will spend more time on the new ABCs of research. Here we go, wave the book, right? And I'm doing projects with the National Academy of Sciences and Engineering downtown to promote these ideas and promote these ideas on this campus. And there's now a forming alliance of 15 universities to develop those ideas and the ways to change the culture on campus. So you'll be hearing more from me about that. But I will be freer to spend time with daughter, Sarah, and with Anna and their children. And I'll be freer for more adventures with Jenny. And that's what's coming for me. So I've had a great time here. It's been grateful, satisfying to me. I feel a sense of accomplishment. I feel fortunate in my professional career. And it's been very good. May you all feel that fortunate on the days when you retire and when you receive the recognition of your colleagues. So for now, thank you. Not goodbye, but I'll be around. And I look forward to seeing you when you knock on my office door or poke in and see me standing at my stand-up desk. I'll be there typing away. Come in and let's go for a coffee or for lunch. So let's keep that going. I appreciate it. It's been great. Thank you.